Hello everyone, Yakri here with another Dominions 5 video. So it's early in the morning and cold as balls here in Portland, Oregon, which means it's a great time for another really complicated, detailed tutorial on Dominions 5. This time we're covering construction, and we're going to talk about all the different items in the game. Well, most of them. I'm going to skip a lot of less notable items. The items in construction in general are going to be kind of similar to summons in conjuration, in that unlike a lot of spells in, alteration, evocation, thaumaturgy, and enchantment, the stuff you're creating here has a gem cost, which means that if it's not cost effective, you probably don't want to bother with it. So, because you have to actually invest something significant, right, to make use of it. So, a lot of the stuff in terms of items is going to be either very niche or just kind of fall by the wayside if you have a better option, right? And so for that reason, we're going to skip over a lot of the items. It's zero construction here. With a couple notable ones, Boots of Long Strides. These are a little bit different from Dominions 4, but increased map movement is always going to be kind of useful because moving around mages is handy. And so you can just stick that on your mages and get them places faster. More useful perhaps for really making more mobile thugs, if you don't have access to a way to give them flying, right? Let's see. The Enchanted Pike is kind of notable because you can potentially embark on some weird strategies that are not super good, but pseudo-viable, where you give a pretender this weapon, because it's only level 0, only 5 astral pearls, so some nations can craft this on turn 2 and have a pretender go out on turn 3 wielding this, and it will give them a little bit of a bonus to defense. It'll improve their damage for some pretenders, and perhaps most importantly, will let them repel pretty much any melee attack from indies, which is, a nice little morale check to, whatchamacallit. I guess repel is exactly the right word, to repel an attack. Repel is a little less good in Dominions 5, but it's not really relevant for a single unit by itself being able to repel things, I don't think. So, yeah, still kind of useful on that note. And I think that covers... Oh, yes, there's one other thing in the early level items, which is the Ring of Fire, Ring of Frost, Ring of Tamed Lightning. So these rings of elemental resistance are, of course, useful if you have a problem with some sort of elemental attack an opponent is using against you. For example, Ring of Frost would be pretty handy to defend against spells like Frozen Heart, or Frozen Heart? I think it's Frozen Heart. Yeah. Skull Talisman also used to be very good in Dominions 4 for making like super OP assassins, because you could actually use it to cast the like Summon Skeleton or Revive Skeleton, I forget what it was called exactly, spell, so that you can generate skeletons per turn while you have the Skull Talisman, right? You can only generate one per turn, but that's very good if you're assassinating someone, right? It's just you versus them, and you're just spamming out skeletons at basically no fatigue cost. Maybe it was actually no fatigue cost. It might have just been the encumbrance penalty of the dude doing it. I forget. But you can make a lot of skeletons that way. Now you just get one. So this is far less useful, but perhaps still usable on assassins. Having one extra skeleton with you in an assassination attempt is kind of handy, but it's mostly not that good anymore. But I thought I'd mention that because you might see some guides and stuff from Dominions 4 saying it's good, and I just wanted you to know that that's not really the case anymore. And Slave Collar is kind of interesting in that it makes the wearer feeble-minded, so it's not good for anyone who can use magic paths, but of course it gives them a huge morale bonus, making them able to effectively ignore morale checks. I haven't ever found a good use for this, but it's not totally impossible because it's kind of a unique thing that it does. But yeah, shrug. All right, so let's get into more useful items, and I'm gonna skip over a lot of stuff in kind of a similar way if I don't think it's particularly good. And I'm also not going to cover boosters too much, other than a general covering, which is to say that all boosters are good. Okay, they're all good. Boosting magic paths is really useful for a wide variety of reasons. So you don't really need to ask me if you see that this is a booster. It's good. The key thing to remember, though, is that non-artifact boosters are the most useful and important because, of course, you can only craft a few artifact boosters. Only one of each item can exist, right? So that does limit its usefulness quite a bit. I don't think there's anything much else to be said about boosting. I believe there's a... Maybe I'll try and look it up. I believe there's a guide to boosting in Dominions that was made for Dominions 4, which I think still applies pretty much exactly in Dominions 5. And you can kind of do some like complicated shenanigans where you build booster items to summon units through conjuration that have better magic paths, and then you equip the boosters on those units, and then they summon yet better units, or they build yet better boosters, and so on and so forth, to allow you to, you know, climb your way up to quite high magic pathing. So that's really all that needs to be said on that. It's very good to do. I don't think I need to mention anything else unless there's a booster item of particular note. I don't think there is. Alright, so you got Axe of Sharpness. I guess I'll go over every item as I go. Why not? This is going to be a bit long, but let's make it more comprehensive, actually. I'm not going to skip too much. Bane Blades, there's the one-handed and two-handed versions. These are not very useful, neither is the Axe of Sharpness. Basically, the Axe of Sharpness is just, it does a lot of damage. And the Bane Blade, the secondary effect is Decay, which doesn't kill things immediately. So, you know, when you're equipping, like, actual weapons for combat that you're crafting with construction, you're going to use those on thugs. And so what thugs need to do is they need to be able to go by themselves or in, like, a group of some kind and, like, clear out large numbers of units. And the thing is that something that kills only one unit per turn is not super useful to a thug, because they can probably do that anyway. So a Bane Blade or one-handed Bane Blade, Axe of Sharpness, all not very useful. You could potentially find some use for maybe like dual-wielding Axes of Sharpness to kill a Pretender, perhaps. I could kind of see that, maybe, if it had like 30 protection, you know. But for the most part, not really useful. Darkskin Amulet, it's useful if you're buffing up a thug that doesn't have nature magic itself and has like 0 to 3 protection, but otherwise not very useful. It also makes you weak to fire, so be careful. These are really good, actually. I would say that all the movement, like survival things, have gotten better. So Mountain Survival and Winter Move is pretty handy, especially if you want to, I don't know, raid into someone's territory and they have Cold Scale, so you're going to be sitting around in their Dominion a lot. Probably you want to find some item that boosts combat power or not spend gems for the most part, but it's not terrible. The effect of this weapon is pretty good, but it only hits one square, right? And so it's not really practical. The Black Bowl of Boltuf, I can't pronounce that really. It's just not really economical, right? You don't get a lot of bang for your buck out of it, even if the effect is quite good. Strength boosting boots, meh. This is like a really shitty version of equipping your dude with a weapon, and you could do that for 5 gems too. Trample boots. Almost certainly not useful most of the time. Maybe with the exception in some rare cases of giants. You could put these on giants, I guess. Maybe if maybe you could do some weird thing with some combination of putting this on a cavalry unit and then increasing its size. But I've never seen these used effectively, and they probably don't have a lot of effective uses. There are better things you can do with thugs than give them trample usually. And especially as a single unit, there's still a bit of that problem with trample where you kind of get yourself surrounded, and then that's not good for you. The Bracers of Protection are pretty decent. It's not one of those like all like one and done makes a guy effective at thugging type items, but a combination of +2 protection to body and head and +2 defense, it's useful. It's especially useful on units that have like moderate protection, like 14 overall, and they have high defense. Maybe they're cavalry. Overall, though, everything I've covered so far is mostly not great on the effectiveness. I should have put this at the beginning. But I wanted to mention something, which is, going forward, I'm going to try and categorize things as bad, good, or notable, and things that are good are pretty common in Dominions, right? By good, I mean like it has a use, like there's a reason to use it at some point, and you can get value out of it. And bad means that I can't really see a way to get value out of it, or it's so ridiculously niche as to be unrealistic to ever get a use out of it. And notable are things that are like, or notable or staples, maybe I'll call them staples. Things like Fireball. Fireball is a staple of evocation magic. It's something that's reliable, it's good, you get a lot of value out of it, and you probably want to use it if you have access to it. So, The Burning Blade, I believe, is new in Dominions 5, like having said that. And this is what I would call probably a staple. Yeah, because it's got, wait, is this a, oh no, it's not an area of effect. Never mind, this one's just neat. But the, what's that one called? The, there are these two swords later. Well, we'll get to those. I think they've been modified in Dominions 5, but weapons that do area of effect damage are staples of construction if you're making thugs. Anyway, that's basically because killing entire squares of human-sized units that have 10 hit points is really valuable. So this, I thought this was an area of effect ability. I think it's not. I think it automatically does fire damage to anyone you hit. Yeah, okay, so not that good. Not that good. It's useful, sort of, in that it gives you a magic weapon and deals okay damage, but, same kind of problems as the weapon active Sharpness, really. Maybe it's even worse because the fire damage is a separate instance. Burning Pearl is, not good at all. You could use it to get more fire resistance if you want to double stack fire resistance, because it'll stack with other items that increase fire resistance. I think, like, fingers crossed. Pretty sure that works. Okay, Cat Charm increases defense. This is generally not useful. Pretend nature gems? Nah, not really. For defense is pretty good, but not really useful. Cat's Eye Amulet, it gives a stealth bonus. What that means is that I believe units that don't have stealth will get stealth. So hugely useful for giving a unit stealth if you need to do that. Otherwise useless, but you know, niche. So it's good. Champion Skull, XP gain per month, not really good. No, who cares? It's not that important to gain XP. A little bit of XP, really. Chi shoes, these are the little kick shoes. Yeah, not that good. Clam of Pearl, super good because this is a gem generator, so that's something else to talk about. Wait, yeah, I was looking at the boots again and got confused. Yeah, this gives you temporary gems. So temporary gems are gems that you get during a battle, and you can use them during that battle, and they go away when the battle ends. And so basically, if you want to cast spells that require astral gems, right, during the battle, with this item your mage can cast 2 gems, or spells that use gems twice, right, or 2 gems cost, whatever, he has 2 gems, right, you get the idea, because there could be a spell that costs 2 gems, you can only cast 4. But so for example, a astral 2 mage could use this to cast Light of the Northern Star once in the battle. 1 gem to boost his path up to 3 for casting a spell, and 1 gem to pay for the cost of Light of the Northern Star. This is very good and can save you a ton of gems over like a protracted campaign. There are various other versions of this, and I'm not going to talk about them in much detail because very much like the boosters, like the Armor of Souls, they're all good. And enough said. Copper Plate. Copper Plate is a little bit notable because of its 25 shock resistance, okay? 25 lightning resistance is pretty good for thugs because lightning damage is or shock damage is pretty good at killing thugs with like lightning bolt and people spamming Thunderstrike. As such, this is a pretty useful item if you know you're going to have to deal with that, just like the other elemental resist items, but it happens to be an armor, and the armor isn't that good, so keep in mind you're like 13 body protection, there's a very good chance that either you already have better or you could give your thug better armor, right? So keep that in mind that you're kind of penalizing your defenses versus physical attacks. Make it better. Oh, blood. I don't remember this. Is this a new one? I'm still not totally familiar with all the new, or what things are new in Dominions 5, because they definitely did some stuff with items, but it's kind of hard to side-by-side compare them. This is kind of neat, but I don't think it's that good. Again, it doesn't kill things in a AoE, basically. Magic resistance plus, nah, it's not good. Super good. So this is kind of a unique thing. The Crystal Shield casts Power of the Spheres automatically at the beginning of the battle. Power of the Spheres gives you +1 in every magic path that you have. This is so good. It's so good. You don't actually cast it. This auto casts it, so you don't pay the I think it has a gem cost maybe, and it also costs 100 fatigue. So this is fantastic. This is an amazing item. Especially if you need to cast a spell at the beginning of a battle that you don't have the pathing for, put this on your mage. Doesn't really matter what it is. Boom, he'll get a path boost the instant the battle starts, and then you can drop your battlefield magic. No big deal. So yeah, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Astral Earth magic is a great cross path for this and other reasons, basically. Let's see. No, who cares? Moving on. That's Dire Wolf Pulp that I'm just missing incidentally if someone's just not watching this and listening to it. I'm trying to get better about speaking everything I'm thinking instead of making a gesture or something with my mouse. Small area Curse and Decay. This is not super good. It comes a little bit closer to actually doing something sort of area of effect, but Curse and Decay in an area is not super useful because probably your dude who has this weapon is going to Curse and Decay some units and then kill all of them before these effects actually matter. So, not the best. Wish they would amp up like decay and curse effects on weapons, like my crafted weapons, because it really would need to be like AoE 3 or something to be kind of neat. Dragon Helmet gives you resist fire, and it's a helmet that's good. So it also gives you dark vision. This is just actually pretty fantastic as far as helmets. Like, you'll get better options pretty quickly, but the Dragon Helmet is not bad, honestly. It's only really overshadowed by the fact that we're going to see the Horror Helmet a little later on, which is borderline OP. Maybe it's not OP. It's very good. It's your top choice of helmets for most cases for thugs. Just dagger, not that useful. Dwarven Hammer. Dwarven Hammer is not a weapon. Dwarven Hammer gives you a forge discount of 2, I believe. Does it say? Yeah. Fixed forge bonus of 2. So when you forge magical items with this equipped, you know, if your mage forges magical items with this Dwarven Hammer equipped, they will be 2 gems cheaper. So it's really good if you forge enough magical items that you can like refund the cost of the hammer and then some, which usually means that you're gonna have to spend like 7 or 8 turns forging. At 8 turns forging, it's worth it. Now, where this can become a little bit more useful is if you have a abundance of earth gems and you have very few air gems, right? And you need to forge, you need to spam out an air item like I forget what it's called, owl quills, I think. This is like a quill thing that boosts research. That's a good one to spam. Olm would do this, and if you're in that situation, then really this saving you 2 gems is kind of saving you 4 gems, because that's what it would cost to like transmute to astral pearls and then over into this other currency or other gem type. So it becomes valuable in 4 turns instead of 8, right? So in that kind of case, it's much more worth it. Just keep that in mind though when you're crafting them. Like 7 or 8 mage turns of crafting is a lot, and you need to really go past that a fair bit for this to really be worth it. Effigy of War changes your army size. I have found a use for the army size change things, but only decreasing my army size. Maybe if I was better at head games, I could do something with Effigy of War. I will say that there are items that decrease the size of your army instead of increase it, and I did get use out of them one time. I actually crafted a ton of them. I put them on every single army, and made my forces seem radically smaller than they were to everyone scouting me, and it allowed me to engage in diplomacy with other players from a position of looking like I had a more similar army size to them when it was actually much larger, and I won that game. Not totally because of that, but I like to think it helped. The Enormous Cauldron of Broth. So supply bonuses are not something you need very often, and usually not until late mid-game to end game. However, having access to them once you do need them is super important. If your units don't have enough supplies to survive, they will become diseased and gain afflictions, and it's super bad. You do not want your units to be starving, and there are only a few ways to really like prevent it, and that's mostly magical items that increase your supply bonus. So Enormous Cauldron of Broth is really situational, but extremely worth it when you are in that situation. Eye Shield. So we're getting into the more like generally good staple magic items. Eye Shield is super good for thugs that can take a hit, because anyone who hits the shield, now, you have to be careful with the wording on these in Dominion mechanics. I think it means that if they actually hit your like shield AC, right? Like there's a in a defense roll, right? They can hit above your defense, but still in the shield parry range of your defense. And then they hit your shield. And so if they hit your shield with the eye shield, they will lose their eye. And if they hit your shield twice, they'll go blind, and then they're pretty much incapable of fighting. I had a great fight one time where my Neefly Jarl was capable of defeating this whole army and virtually unkillable with how kitted out I had him, but the enemy had an army and a thug, and their thug had an eye shield, and he ended up blinded and just kind of sat around, and the battle hit the max round timer because of that. It was kind of funny. But yeah, this is pretty good. It's especially good as an anti-enemy thug type thing, right? And it's especially good when your thug can take a lot of hits without dying. Maybe they have regenerating as well. Maybe they've got like 50 to 60 hit points, that kind of thing. Because you know, it's when you're taking a lot of attacks that this starts to gain value over time, especially if you can't kill all the people who are surrounding you, right? And there's like a ton of units surrounding you, and so there's a good chance that some of them are going to get into attacks, so lose their eyes and no longer be able to hit you, because when you're blind, your attack goes into the toilet for obvious reasons. I have aiming, so I'm not a huge fan of these like what's the word for this? Insertable, like cursed items where you like replace a body part, but with perhaps the exception of the hearts, the different heart items. But the Eye of Aiming can potentially be pretty good. Precision bonus +8 is actually quite decent. I think you get a precision penalty of 4 and then a bonus of 8 or something silly like that, because you've like lost an eye. This won't stack with spells like Aim and Eagle Eyes, incidentally, but it will stack with Air Bless. So keep that in mind. If you want to have a mage with laser-like accuracy, this isn't a totally terrible investment at just 5 gems, especially if you also have an Air Bless, and then you can, you know, easily have like, that's going to be like 12 plus 12 precision. That's just stupidly high. But maybe a little bit overkill, perhaps. Eye Catcher. Oh, this is a great one. So this is kind of a... Since this is offensive, you're not going to be hitting a lot of targets with it, right? So... this is good versus thugs, right? If you have a thug and you're going to fight another thug, you hit them once with this, they lose an eye. You hit them again with this, they lose their other eye. At that point, you're probably going to win the fight, right? And the first eye loss does give them significant penalties, right? So this is pretty good, but very situational. Faithful gives your wielder luck in battle. This is actually like a fairly decent bonus, but it's not really what you want out of a weapon. Luck is a really powerful spell to have buffing you, but you can get it better ways, or you'd rather get it a different way anyway. This is kind of, this Fireplate, it's kind of not as good, nearly as good as the Dragon Helm or the Copper Armor. It's only 5 fire resist, and its stats are so not a huge fan of it. Fire in a Jar, this is a gem generator, so it's good. Also gives you resistance from cold, which is kind of handy. Sometimes you can have a mage who both can use the gems and the resistance because they're like a thug with the right pathing, right? That can be handy from time to time. Flask of Holy Water. This is definitely a new item in Dominions 5, and it auto blesses sacred troops. This is pretty niche, but it could be useful for certain units. Generally, we're talking thugs that maybe can't bless themselves at all. It's not possible because they don't have priest paths, or you really don't want to take the time to bless them. You'd rather have them cast buffs, perhaps. Gladiator Gauntlets, not really good. Too low range. They just don't do anything really super useful. Gossamer Cloth, this is one of the things I was talking about that decreases the army size report. It's a bit expensive, and that's one of the reasons these aren't too useful most of the time. But I have had an occasion to use it, so I can't totally diss it. Great Sword of Sharpness. This is kind of a worse version of the Axe of Sharpness because it stops you from using a shield, and shields are really good for thugs. Halbert of Might. Halbert of Might is really terrible. Physical strength of the wielder. This is like even +4 strength. This is really shitty. It's just really terrible. All right, never mind. That's like, there's got to be some sort of some sort of extra thing to it. Okay, Hammer of the Mountains. This is kind of neat. I don't know if I just overlooked this before. It is two-handed. Two-handed weapons are usually not so good because using shields is really good, as I've already mentioned, when you're talking about thugs, and if you're using a weapon, you're a thug. But it does have a small area stun, which must mean stun as in the new stun effect, which actually stops units from acting. So this could actually be pretty okay, maybe. As a discount option, you would rather have something that actually kills stuff in an area, but an area stun, AoE 1 stun is actually not bad. I'll have to see if I can use that in a game sometime. But I don't think the hammer is new. I'm pretty sure I remember the hammer from Dominions 4, but I think the effect is new. A handful of acorns summons 3 vine men. This could be like a good option for assassinating people, like the Skull Talisman, but at a slightly higher magic level, and it's a lot more balanced. The Skull Talisman in Dominions 4 was at 0 construction and was much better than it is now. Now that it's at, yeah, anyway, at 2 construction, where we're at now, a handful of acorns is pretty reasonable. And it can be kind of useful still in a fight like that. Holy Scourge, a weapon that's especially good versus undead. If you're fighting undead, this is still not that good because it doesn't do any sort of area of effect thing. There are fire weapons that do that later. I think they'll do it anyway. Horned Helmet, it's a helmet that's a pretty decent helmet and gives you an extra attack. Extra attacks are pretty good. There are better helmet options than this, but it's not bad per se. But here's why we don't like it that much. We've got the Horror Helmet. Now, of course, you might not have access to the Horror Helmet. The Horned Helmet is nature. The Horror Helmet is death. But the Horror Helmet gives a Fear Aura 5. Fear Aura causes units to eventually, sooner or later, rout. And that is super good. It means that you inevitably win fights as long as you live long enough. And that is a very, very, very valuable asset for thug units. Most of the thugs in the game, I would like to have this helmet on. Maybe all? Maybe I should say all thugs in the game I would like to have this helmet on. Excuse me. I'm not sure I can think of any like counter example to how I would not like to have a Fear Aura and I'd like to have something else on my head. I don't think there's a helmet that gives Awe. That's probably the only thing that can convince me to give up a Fear Aura. Hunter's Knife. This is garbage. Hunter's Knife is garbage. Don't use it. Ice Aegis. I remember this. But I could just have a bad memory. Let's see. This is its power. Alright, so it has cold power, right? Does it actually tell you how much cold power it is? I don't think it does. This warm shield also protects its wielder from cold. So, this is probably terrible. Yeah, Ice Aegis, I'd say there's probably better shields that aren't dependent on the weather. Dependent on the weather is just not a good sign. Cold. Now, cold resistance isn't terrible to have. Ice Helmet is very lackluster, though. It's just so bland and only 5 cold resistance. Not a fan at all. Okay, here's something more like what I'd like to see. You know, I was actually planning to check if the Flame, I can't remember their names, the Firebrand and Frostbrand were still in the game, because I thought they got changed or removed or something, but I guess we're gonna find out as we go along. We've got Ice Mist Scimitar though, which is not quite as good as those awesome weapons of Dom 4 era, but it does have an auto effect AoE Ice Mist, sleep/stun effect, 10 damage. You know, I wonder if sleep stun now, if that's fatigue damage, or if that's gonna actually do the stun effect. If it's the stun effect, that's kind of neat because it's a one-handed weapon and it does the stun effect, whereas the Hammer of the Mountains doing a stun effect wasn't as awesome because it was two-handed. You want a shield. Whereas this is one-handed, much better. I think it's cold damage. I think it's fatigue damage, which is not so great because again, you're likely to kill everyone you're attacking before that is relevant. Ice Pebble Staff, spell numbness. So this is one of many items, and it's probably too expensive to really be worth it, that allows your commander to cast a spell, right? Ice Pebble Staff. And And in this case, it's numbness, but there are a variety of other items like this, some of which are pretty good. This one probably isn't. And the nice thing about this basically is that you can, for example, like let's say you had 150 water gems and you didn't have a good use for them. So you spend all 150 crafting 10 of these babies and you give them to scouts. And so now you have 10 scouts that can cast the spell, and you just have them like show up in a fight unexpectedly and spam the shit out of the spell. That's pretty effective. I think the most ridiculous example I did was I had... Oh, hold on a second. Alright, hopefully that didn't sound too bad. I just realized my pop filter was jammed into my microphone. That's probably me goofing around in VR last night. So, the Ice Pebble Staff, well, this isn't a really good example, but there's the Wildfire Wand later on, and one time in a game I had like, God knows, hundreds of fire gems that I didn't have a good use for and I was losing, and so I outfitted like 10 or 20 scouts or something, some ridiculous number, I don't really remember anymore, with the staff that let them cast Fireball, and so I just brought like an absurd number of mages casting Fireball to a fight that someone didn't expect it. It was very effective. So that's what the use case for those type of things is, generally speaking. And the reason I say scouts in particular is because they have stealth, right? So I put it on a stealthy unit because then you can surprise people with it better. Not that they'd probably realize, well, some people might realize why you're carting around like a swarm of scouts if they noticed it through their own scouting. Imp Familiar gives you the Retinue Shadow Imp. This is not particularly useful. Oh wait, does it have a leadership bonus? Research bonus? Oh, it's a research bonus of 3 for 5 blood slaves. That's actually not too bad. Yeah, Imp Familiar, you could totally craft a bunch of those to give bigger research bonus to mages. Yeah, I would add up after a few of them. Of course, it's cursed. You can't get rid of it, so keep that in mind. Make sure you don't want to put any other items on your mages, but not bad. So some people have asked me about what items give you summoning bonuses, right? And here's one, the Ivy Crown. There are also some others that are national specific, and I've removed national items from this list of discussion because those are, they fit better in the discussion of a particular nation, right? Anyway, Ivy Crown gives you Ivy Lord 1, which gives you a bonus awakening Vine Men and Vine Ogres. Vine Ogres being the really important one. Vine Ogres are actually pretty good, and if you stack up the Ivy Lord bonuses, I want to say there might be a pretender that has an Ivy Lord bonus. No, there's a summoned mage who has an Ivy Lord bonus at the very least. And if you stack up the bonuses and then spam the Summon Vine Ogre spell, they're a pretty decent summoned unit in bang for your buck terms. And there are some other items like this, and they make certain things fairly useful, like Craft Corpse Construct has a few different things that you can use to boost it, and it can become reasonably useful. Onyx Lion Pelts. I think this is... Cost. It's got all these cost discounts. I wonder if it's super cheap for someone. Huh, national discount. So Machaca gets a discount on this item. I don't know if they have any units you could really thug out with this, but well, if it's discounted enough, then it might be useful, but it's not that great. It's just kind of like a cheap, low encumbrance. Oh, it has head armor. Never mind. I'm dumb. Sorry. So this is a chest armor that gives you 15 protection head and 15 protection body. That's super good since you could wear a helmet as well, and they would stack, I believe. And it only has encumbrance 1. Yeah, that's pretty good actually, especially if it is discounted. It's just quality armor. Doesn't have any super great special effects, which I would like it to have. But hey, you know, only so much you can have going for you. That's pretty decent. Nature Earth Crosspath isn't too tough either. Knife of the Damned, Curse Luck, who cares? Again, it's another thing that's like, does effects that don't really matter on a weapon. Lead Shield, +4 magic resistance. This thing is probably not worth a 3 encumbrance, but if you really need magic resist for some reason, like you expect to be spammed with Soul Slay, the Lead Shield isn't totally terrible. I might consider using it on something like really weird, like a super late game super combatant, like a crap, I can't remember what they're called. Tartarian. If I did the whole summon Tartarian strat, which I think I talked about in one of my previous videos on Magic, those guys are really hard to kill. So hard to kill that a good way to get rid of them might be to have 20 mages spam Soul Slay in the hopes that one of them will crit roll through your magic resist and kill it. Boosting your magic resist to make that really unlikely is a pretty good idea. Lightning Rod. This is one of the Corpse Construct things. So this gives you an extra +3 Corpse Constructs when crafting Corpse Construct. I believe it's not the only thing. There's like a Thunder Spool or something you can get as well. And if you stack up all the different bonuses, Corpseman Construction, which is in construction, a spell in construction, is pretty useful. Normally it constructs 1, right? For 1 air gem? Yeah, so you can get this up to constructing like, what, 4 or... Well, we'll see. I'll leave these up here on the right here, and we'll see how many more we can get to. Let me just double check this is recording. Yep, and we'll see how much of a bonus we can get to. It's one of the neat strategies you can do. I'm kind of a fan of it just for, I don't know, cool factor. I like summoning stuff. Lodestone Amulet, magic resist, no penalty. This is not bad. This is a way better option than the lead shield. Of course, the bonus is smaller, but you know, there's only so much you can ask for, really. Now this is what I've been wanting. This is what I've been complaining about not having on every one-handed weapon we've come across so far. This is on hit Flame Eruption. That is 8 AoE damage, armor piercing, fire. Great. This is fantastic because there's a good chance that if you're like just cleaving through crappy squares of infantry, right, that don't have good armor, like chaff units, maybe you're like just plowing your way through a bunch of Maenads or, you know, province defense, well, there's a good chance that you'll kill every dude in a square with that Flame Eruption, or like half the dudes in a square. Even just one extra guy besides the guy you actually attacked, well worth it. And this is kind of the if your Firebrand isn't around anymore, this would be the Firebrand replacer, right? So this is what you want to put on a thug because it increases the speed at which they can kill their way through a province, and you need something like this or something like the Horror Helmet so that they can either kill their way through units faster, fast enough to really like clear them out and cause them to rouch, or they need some sort of passive way to win the battle, like a Fear Aura. Okay, Main Gouge of Parrying. I'm pronouncing that wrong, but who cares really? It's gives you a large defense bonus. I could see that being actually weirdly useful in cavalry, but most of the time not very worthwhile. This is kind of lackluster armor that has really good magic resist. I could say it could be okay if you're worried about Soul Slay a lot. Owl Quill, this is a good research booster, but it's a lot more good if you have Dwarven Hammers. At 5 air gems, reduce it to 3 air gems, or maybe if you have a baseline forge bonus of some kind to reduce the number of gems required, and then you just craft a ton of these. The bonus adds up pretty quickly to be fairly substantial. I'm a fan of it. Now, Pendant of Luck. I mentioned before how I would rather get luck not from a weapon. This is where I'd rather get it from. A pendant. Luck is a really good ability, you know, 75% chance of avoiding a lethal blow, especially on thugs like elf cavalry and stuff, where maybe they have some better hit points than normal, but it's like 16 hit points or 21 hit points, some fairly low point, not like a giant, where unlucky hits can kill them. This is a really good safeguard against that, and much improving your odds of survival, right? I'm not a huge fan of any of the magical item ranged weapons. There is one, I believe, later on that's like semi-good, but this isn't it. I think it just does good damage, right, with high precision. Not really super worth it. I kind of wonder wonder if there is a way you could actually like stack up enough bonuses to your crafting where you could like craft one of these things and put them on scouts or something and have it be fairly useful. Maybe. Now these boots are pretty good, kind of a step above the other ones because they give a stealth bonus, allowing your unit to stealth. I'm wondering if maybe I know in the past when you gained a stealth bonus you could actually become sneaky, right? But I don't know if that's still true. I'm assuming it still is though. Reinvigoration is really good as well. Forest Survival is really good as well. Forest Survival is possibly the best forest survival. The best survival. Forests are very common and usually cover a wide area. But the reinvigoration is what's really handy. Units naturally get 1 reinvigoration on the battlefield, but getting 2 or 3 or enough to add up to your encumbrance is really handy, because fatiguing out is really bad. And thug units, you usually want to cast some buff spells on them, so they're gonna, you know, be a little bit in the hole in terms of fatigue already. And then they're gonna probably attack a lot, so you're gonna use like 2 weapons, or you're gonna cast quickness on them, maybe, who knows. But they're gonna have to survive for a long time, and if they hit 50 fatigue, they're probably toast. So reinvigoration is good. Reinvigoration can also be good to put on non-thugs. This is one of the items, we haven't gotten through too many items that are actually very useful for mages, but this is one, because stacking reinvigoration bonuses for some big battle mage that's very important to your strategy can be a pretty good idea. Okay, so Ranger's Cloak, big stealth bonus, nah, not really worth it. Getting yourself a stealth bonus is still pretty good, but we've gone over a couple items, like right here, Ranger's Boots. This is a better item. It's the same research and pathing. It's a better item. It's a different slot, but still, it's a better item. Ring of Warning, and this is not super useful at all. Water Breathing. Water Breathing is very useful, right? And very niche. It's basically, if you need to get into the water, this is what you got to do it. For example, back in Conjuration, we talked about the sea trolls that you can summon without a commander. If you summon those guys, give someone this Ring of Water Breathing, they can lead them into the ocean, and you can take water provinces, which sometimes you may need to do. Attack and morale bonus, not super great. We're just gonna, that's the Ring of the Warrior, not really worth mentioning, not worth crafting either. In a large part because you in large part because you won't need a, oh, what's the word I'm looking for here? You won't want to waste a mage turn on it, right? It's not worth wasting a mage turn on, probably. Robe of Abyssal Protection, I don't like this because it's an armor slot. Air Shield is really good, but taking up a body slot is not so good. When Protection, in fact, protects you from arrows pretty well as well. This is, does it spread disease in the province you're in? Also becomes diseased. Oh, so it's an undead leadership thing that penalizes you by making you diseased, which doesn't matter if you're undead. But it's 50 undead leadership. I'm not going to say I would never ever craft this for any reason, but unlikely. The plus 25 leadership spell Combustion. This is actually not bad. It's only 5 fire gems, and the spell Combustion, is this the one that just sets people on fire? It's a little weak. Maybe not really worth it. Yeah, no, not very worth it. That's Scepter of Authority. Chandler's Skin Armor. This gives you water breathing, right? Yeah, it's not very good, but it's a different item slot at least, so it gives you a little bit of a different option for getting water breathing, although I think the ring is probably better in almost all situations. Shield of Valor. This is a much better way to get air shield. It's a decent shield, only 1 encumbrance, 20 protection, 8 parry, and 80% air shield. This is quite good, well worth the 10 gems in cases where you actually need arrow protection anyway. It's even something I could see myself putting on a mage, perhaps, to prevent them from getting stray arrowed down. Yeah, could be pretty useful. So, let's see, the Smasher. Oh yeah, auto effect Shatter. So, this is like super niche, but if you really expect your thug to go up against construct thugs, the Smasher is worth equipping. Otherwise, don't bother. Because Shatter does insane damage to constructs. Soul Contract. This is the one that summons devils every turn, right? How's that? 90 blood slaves, 5 fire gems to forge. This is an even worse deal than it used to be. Yeah, this is probably bad. Like, okay, so this is like, yeah, this is sort of good because, actually, I'm gonna bring up the Dom for it because the Dom, it's sort of good here because getting devils is pretty good, right? Let's look at these guys. 35 hit points. They fly. And they got a decent weapon. They got a heat aura. You know, they got a barbed tail too. 2 weapons. Aha! All right, so that's pretty handy. But the thing is that 90 blood slaves is a lot. It's like that's a lot of blood slaves, and we can go You can go and look at blood magic. Like, yeah, blood magic. We're gonna resummon some devils, huh? Let's see. We want not combat spells, ritual spells, and generic only. Okay, bind devil. So bind devil is 7 blood slaves. So let's see, like 90. That's 12 turns, right? For this contract to pay off. Actually, like a pretty severe number. Like, pretend for a minute that's I don't know, what is this at? It's at construction 2. I guess that's not too bad, but it's a lot of blood slaves to get in the first place to craft it. So pretend this game's going to like turn 60. If you craft this thing on turn 90, there was like no point. Turn 60. If you craft this thing on like turn 40, there was no point, right? And if you craft this on turn 40 even, you're not going to get too much value out of it before the end of the game, and you kind of need to like stack these up pretty high to get value out of them. So I don't know if I think it's super worth it. Let's see. Dom 4 soul contract. So soul contract is 55. Yeah, so there was some debate in Dom 4 if this was actually worth the blood slave cost at the time, and now it's 90. It is much more accessible, so I don't know, but it's probably not worth it compared to just summoning demons or doing other things with your blood slaves. Well, maybe. I don't know. The fact that you can get it a lot earlier perhaps means that if you rush to these hard enough so that you can more reasonably expect to have a unit with a soul contract around for 20 turns before the game ends, then yeah, it could be useful. But you do. It takes a long time to pay off. That's the long and short of it, I guess. Okay. Oh, damn, we're not even halfway down. All right, Staff of Flame Focus. Staff of Flame Focus. Fire Ritual range bonus, not super useful. Staff of Flame Focus, not that good. Star of Heroes, breaks armor, pretty good. Hard to find a use for it on a thug though. Stinger, not a very good weapon. It's just a weapon, very boring, very bland. Stonebird, this is kind of neat. It's a miscellaneous slot item that gives you another attack where this stone bird just slaps people in the face for bludgeoning damage. It has four attacks. Does that mean that it's repeatedly 4 attacks per turn? Dang, that's actually really good. It's also pretty good for reducing the defense of a target from the harassment penalty. So Stun Bird, quite good. Let's see, Sword of Sharpness. This is not very good, just another bland weapon. Pebble Pouch. This is probably impossible to make super useful, but kind of neat. Lets you throw boulders at people. I think it's cool, but useful, probably not. Thorn Spear, not useful. Thorn Staff, not useful. They're poison weapons that are not very exciting weapons. Thunder Whip, auto Chain Shock. Oh, I think that's different. Hold on. Chain Shock. Let's see. Does light damage capped, so your strength isn't gonna matter, huh? And chains damage. So this is actually kind of cool because if it's 3 chaining damage, I don't think it says at all how much it's going to chain, if at all. But it's kind of cool if it's going to chain through multiple targets, like chain lightning. But the damage amounts are so low that I don't think this is very useful. The Thunder Whip, True Shot Longbow, 30 precision. Now this is interesting. This is probably actually going to guaranteed hit whoever your unit aims at, right? If they're not moving. It's only 5 air gems. If you have like a buttload of air gems, you could load up like 30 scouts with this and make it some kind of basically make them super archers. It might work in the early age, maybe. That'd be kind of interesting. Vine Whip, Entangle. This is probably not useful. It's got damage penalties basically, and it's only going to entangle 1 target, not a square, so no. Weightless Kite Shield. So the weightless Scale Mail and Kite Shield are both kind of handy, even though they're relatively weak in terms of their armor values because they have no encumbrance penalty at all, whereas most armor has at least an encumbrance penalty of 1. So yeah, that's actually, often you can use these, you can equip these to your mages to reduce their current encumbrance penalties, and that's good for spellcasting purposes, right? Let's see, Woundfend Amulet. That's seriously only 2%? That's gotta be a bug, right? That's useless. I think this used to be like 80% or 75% or something. Still not very good though, honestly. For taking a turn to craft and all that. Acorn Necklace though, lucky and shock resistant 15. This is super good, especially if you're in the situation where the shock resistance part is actually useful to you. Really great anti-thunder strike item overall. Anti-magic amulet. This is just a more powerful fuck off magic item for your miscellaneous slot. Highly recommend it if you have a reason to use magic resistance. Amulet of the Giants, very situational. Increases your size, increases your strength by I think 3. Probably increases your hit points because it's just enlarged on you all the time. You can combine it with the trample boots, and if you're a size 5 giant already, so you got a size 6 in trampling, it's not totally crazy if you did some other stuff to boost it too. I don't know. Could be useful, maybe. Too bad no one gets like Sacred Chariot Mage Commanders. That would be pretty awesome. Yeah, but it situationally can be useful. It's only 5 nature gems, which is actually pretty cheap. Yeah, cost discount, huh? Amulet of Resilience. This thing is super good. Reinvigoration 5 is a huge amount of reinvigoration. In fact, Reinvigoration 2 is pretty decent even. It's well worth the 10 nature gems. It's very good on thugs, very good on mages. There's just like no situation where I wouldn't like to have this amulet on a commander that's actually doing anything of importance, basically. Amulet of the Dead. So this gives you animate skeleton spell. So this is like a more expensive high-level version of what the skull amulet might have been able to get you in the past. You can use this now, of course, for assassinating people quite handily, and it gives that reanimation bonus to Holy and Death, meaning when you summon like crappy units like Long Dead and stuff, you will summon more of them. Yeah, Long Dead, Ghouls, and Soulless. This can be pretty handy to craft and put on holy reanimators, especially that can just spam it every turn. Amulet of the Fish. This is reverse water breathing. It's air breathing for aquatic units. It's kind of essential for one of the items. It's kind of essential for escaping the water as a water nation. Some of your mages are going to be aquatic, and you're going to need them for combat on land. So when you're in that situation, you want it. All right, this is path boosting. Path boosting is good. That's Armor of Thorns. Incidentally, Astral Serpent. This is the one that bites people when they attack, right? Whenever the wearer of the amulet strikes at someone, this adds an extra attack. This is actually pretty good. It adds an extra attack whenever you attack someone, and it poisons them. The poison is not that useful. The extra attack is. So it's okay. I put it okay tier. When you can use it. Bag of Winds, that's another path booster. It's very good, of course. The Bane Venom Charm, I believe this kills population in the province it's in. If you can like put this on a scout, you can and sneak it into someone's province, you can annoy them. That's what this is for. You could, I believe, you can stack them. I don't know if the 10 is a percentage, but if you could put like 10 of these in someone's province, it would be pretty hilarious. Like on their capital, they'll have a bad time. You'd need to protect your scouts from disease in some way, or they'll inevitably die and drop the Bane Venom Charm, which is a little less useful. Bloodstones, it's a path booster. It's super useful. Blue Dragon Mail. Cold resistance, decent armor, morale bonus. This is all around like a good option if you need more cold resistance, or if perhaps your miscellaneous slots are being taken up by something very important and you really need cold resistance. Boots of the Messenger, bunch of map move points, 3 reinvigoration. These are fantastic. Maybe the best boots. Kind of hard to say, but yeah, they're very good. They're very good on mages. They're very good on thugs. Brazen Vessel, it's another path booster. Path boosters are good. Brightmail Halbergen. Halbergen? Oh, fuck, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. But, fuck, I have to make myself stop trying to pronounce it. This is nice because it doesn't have a encumbrance value, similar to the weightless armor, but it has 2 better protection than the weightless body slot armor. It's just a better version of it. Brimstone Boots, not very good at all. No, not very good at all. They give fire resistance, but they're better boot options. You'd rather have your fire resistance from something else, of which there are quite a few good options. Cauldron of the Elven Halls. This is one of the more useful army size report reduction items, reducing your army size by 75. It's quite pricey, but I think the other one was the Gossamer cloth one was as well, actually, and it only reduced it by 25, which is not very significant. Chainmail Displacement. This is probably bad. I kind of want it to be good, but this gives you mirror image at the start of a battle. But of course, that's dispelled the first time you're hit. It can be kind of okay on like cavalry that don't have glamour but have high defense and all that, good cavalry stats. Since the protection is actually quite good, the defense bonus of 3 is quite good, and then you also get the displacement effect. Yep, pretty sure you get a displacement effect separately, right? Well, if this actually doesn't do that, and then what it's talking about in the description is just the defense bonus, well, I'm dumb and I remembered wrong. Charcoal Shield. This is a good shield that also has fire resistance. Oh, and it gives you fire shield, doesn't it? Yeah, a lot of these have like hidden effects that you can't see anywhere except in-game. But it's actually serves to the shield. Yeah, this gives you fire shield. I'm like 90% sure it gives you fire shield. So charcoal shield is actually pretty good if you put on a very tough sacred. Usually it's good when you want to like combine some effects, like the fire shield bonus. It's not going to matter that much a lot of the time because fire shield is kind of weak. But if you put it on a thug that's very tough and then you need some fire resistance and a shield anyway, and especially if like you don't need to spend your fire and earth gems for other things too much, it's kind of situational dependent on your pathing. Because like Vine Shield is probably better, but what if you don't have access to Vine Shield, right? Then maybe you make do. It's not bad per se. Cornucopia, temporary nature gems, temporary gem generators are really good, and this is new, I'm 98% sure. Yeah, so that's pretty handy. I mean, it's a good item. I'm not sure there's not much else to say there. Use it anytime you might need to use nature, or craft them when you might need to use nature gems in battle on your mages. Crown of Bones, let's see. I say I have a separate crown tag. Do crowns do something special now? I don't think so. It gives you a lot of undead leadership, but it's pretty bad overall, honestly. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, minus inspirational, only 9 protection, 75 undead leadership. With the amount of undead you need to lead around, I'm not sure it's worth all that much. Crystal Coin, it's a path booster. Path boosters are good. This is a little bit notable because the Astral Earth cross path to craft the crystal coin is a little unusual, and astral boosters are particularly neat because astral has very high level requirement boosters, so boosting your way up to those boosters is very good. Crystal Matrix, okay, this takes some special discussion. The Crystal Matrix casts Communion Master, right? So if you have a Crystal Matrix, then you can treat any Communion slaves in the battlefield as your Communion slaves. So for a mage that has no blood magic and no astral magic, you can put them in a Communion as a Communion Master, which is very useful for expanding the high level paths you have available to you. It's very useful in nations like LA Ulm, for example. Man, anyone who can craft these can probably get good value out of them as long as they also have cheap Communion slaves available to their nation. Dancing Shield. This thing is really good. So the Dancing Shield will block any incoming effect. 50-50 chance from any incoming effect will be blocked, and it reduces its damage by 20 if it blocks it. Except for armor negating attacks. Very useful, actually. Just huge durability buff to anyone who equips it. The downside is it is 10 gems, which is a bit much, but it's very good. Dancing Trident, kind of good for similar but opposite reasons. One is it can repel attacks because it has a length of 5, which is actually pretty nice, especially in Dominions 5, where length of 5 is the highest length you can get. It does 19 damage and has its own attack, right? So it attacks people, and more attacks per turn are good on thugs. Earth Boots, that's another magic path booster. It's good. Elemental Armor. This is mostly bad because it has 4 encumbrance. However, it gives you resistance to fire, cold, and shock. Once in a while, the encumbrance might not matter to you, and what you really want is better resists for your thugs or super combatants, and then this is your guy. But I would say it's pretty niche because a 4 encumbrance penalty is very bad. Just keep in mind, encumbrance, you really don't want it. You want to keep your encumbrance low. This is quite a hefty penalty. For perspective, I guess. Elfbane. This just kill elves. Slays magic beings? Is that what that does? Yeah, magic beings can be soul slayed by the touch. Still not very useful because if you're putting a big ass weapon on your thug, you're probably gonna kill shit anyway. You don't need like an extra soul slay effect specifically for magic beings. Maybe you could find a really odd scenario where this is actually useful, but probably not. Enchanted Mirror, a better army size report booster, endless bag of wine, an alternative supply bonus item, only costs 5 nature gems for 50 supply bonus, not too shabby if I do say so myself. Same thing supplies when I mentioned supply bonus items before. I have the Void. Let's see here. This is another Cursed Eye. It gives you magic penetration 2, which means it gives you a bonus when trying to beat an enemy's magic resist checks. This is a really good item in a narrow type of situation where, like, I've put this in a mage before because I wanted them to cast like Master Enslave, right? To enslave the whole battlefield. So +2 on magic resist checks across like 200 or 300 checks is super, super worthwhile. But it does have some hefty penalties, so keep that in mind. It's not going to be worth it unless you have a good use for this in mind. Fire Bullis, I think this is not super good, as I recall. It's kind of fun though, like, you know, throws this at people and it fire bonds them. It's kind of neat. The Flame Bow, Flambow. That's how I pronounce it. Flambow, yeah. It casts the spell Holy Pyre, which is a nice middle Marignon spell. Blasts undead. I would potentially consider using this versus undead in particular. It's a two-handed weapon, so two-handed weapon problems apply. However, area of effect 1, is it an area of effect? Huh, maybe it's not. Area of effect fire. Shit, it's not an area of effect. Never mind. It's peh. This weapon's terrible. I want my area of effect fire damage. Go back to the mace that does area of effect fire damage. Undead will get wrecked by that anyway because they don't have any friggin' armor. Flame Helmet gives you a fire magic bonus and reinvigoration -3. Huge penalty, but if you need the fire bonus, you need the fire bonus. A little bit different from other boosters because it has a penalty which is pretty hefty in addition to its bonus. Flesh Eater Axe. This thing is kind of neat. And then it has a couple odd effects. So this axe causes units that have it equipped to go berserk when wounded, +3 berserk, which is pretty good actually. If you don't want your units to retreat, it has the on-hit effect status chest wound, which is pretty good, a pretty good penalty to apply to a unit that doesn't go down in 1 hit, and it does good damage, just solid amount of slashing damage with a large attack bonus. Yeah, like, it's a magic weapon. It only costs 5 blood slaves. This is like it's not like the best thing. I'd still kind of rather have that fire eruption mace, right? But it's very value. It's a very, very good bargain, right? To deck units out in it. Flying Carpet, this allows you to fly a limited number of troops around. So this is kind of hard to access, but it is kind of neat because you could fly a commander and a couple sacreds to someone's province and raid it, which is pretty handy. Ah, Frostbrand! Frostbrand's still in the game. Good, good, good. Frostbrand is our bestest friend because it has small area cold, right? Area of effect 1, 12 damage, armor piercing, cold damage, really nice. Also does its own damage that's quite good and gives you cold resistance. Huge fan of this weapon because of the AoE, because of the amount of damage that the AoE does. It also gives a defense and attack bonus. This is just a really solid one-hander overall. If you have water magic, this is like your go-to weapon that you want to get access to for your thugs. Yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say about that. Like, this is like kind of a weapon that's Frostbrand and Firebrand are kind of what Thug combat revolved around in Dominions 4. And I don't think it's going to change too much. These are still very good now in Dominions 5. Girdle of Might. This gives a reinvigoration bonus. It gives a strength bonus too, but who cares about strength? Strength. It's just 3 bonus damage. 5 earth gems for 3 reinvigoration bonus is very good, very generous. I would love to have this item on any mage or thug. It's just super good. So yeah, no, that's my review of that. Golden Arbalist. Golden Arbalist is this one of the weird things. It's got 2 attacks. It's kind of neat. They do high damage, but you know, it's same problem as other ranged things. Like it's gotta hit some kind of critical mass. I believe there is one that's kind of worthwhile called the, I forgot about it earlier, but it's called like the Warbow or something, and it fires like a ton of arrows at once. So if you have like 10 of them, it's like 100 arrows. Maybe it's not that much of a multiplication, but I think it was pretty hefty. Golden Hoplon, large fire resistance. That's its claim to fame. If you don't need fire resistance, don't bother with the Golden Hoplon. Probably it's an okay shield too, but you know, nothing to really write home about. The Green Dragon Scale Mail, resist poison, but no one uses poison. Blah. All right, Heartfinder Sword. This soul slays people when you hit them, which is pretty good actually. But it doesn't kill units in an AoE, and it's not cheap like the Flesh Eater. It doesn't make you go berserk. So, it's not that great, really. I kind of liked it at one point when I was a noob, but probably not useful, really. Helmet of Heroes, +2 inspirational bonus. So morale bonuses are very valuable in Dominions. +2 inspirational leadership is actually well worth having. So this is perhaps one of the few times where it's worth crafting an item to give a bonus just to one of your generals. Yeah. Herald Lance, this is not super useful. It's got Inspirational Leadership 1, which is kind of like a handy bonus. Bonus damage versus undead and demons lets you cast solar rays. Let's see, what's the effect of this spell exactly? We won. Nah, not really worth it. Horn Valor. Can't remember what this does. It's a sound of the horn will encourage. Oh, it's Inspirational Leadership. That's what it really is. It's not an in battlefield effect. Inspirational Leadership 1, still kind of neat. Inspirational Leadership is good. What can I say? Let's see, the Implementer Axe. Was there something special about this thing? Did it just do? Oh yeah, it's got a Fear Aura. Yeah, Fear Aura and Pillage bonus. So I still don't know if Pillage is really worth doing most of the time, but a Fear Aura 10 is quite nice, perhaps even enough to tempt me away from my delicious one-hander and shield combo for a 2-handed weapon. Most of the time I still wouldn't do that because it's pretty dangerous, risking the life of your thug to have a more offensive capability, but if you think your thug is cheap enough to survive it, 10 Fear Aura is pretty good. Lifelong Protection. Ah, yes. Auto summon. Let's see. Is this spell combat? This does this constantly, right? So this item, Lifelong Protection, summons 2 imps each turn in combat, right? I believe. And it's pretty decent. 40 Blood Slaves. It's not great, but it is probably the spookiest assassin spell because it summons the 2 imps and they fly to the back of the battlefield and attack enemy commanders. So if you put it on an assassin and you assassinate someone, there's a very good chance the imps will just harass them and they'll attack the imps to defend themselves. Then you'll summon more imps and they'll just die. I'm getting overwhelmed eventually. Lightning Spear is kind of weak sauce, honestly. Yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. Not too exciting. Lucky Coin. This is kind of neat. It's a shield that gives luck. Lots of different ways to get luck through magic items. Luck is always good. The Lucky Coin also has no defense penalty and no encumbrance penalty, making it extremely good out of all the different shield options. It's not going to beat the shield that we're going to find sooner or later in here that gives you awe, but that's because awe is bullshit. Versus spells, of course, this is actually more useful, as it can protect you from non-instant kill effects like Gifts from Heaven, potentially. So this actually, I believe, slowly Lycanthropos Amulet actually turns units into werewolves, I think. Oh, let's see. I think it's also been buffed. I don't think it always gave 10% regen as well as Perma Berserk. That's kind of neat. If that's new, It's actually kind of useful. I could potentially see myself using that. Like 10% regen for 10 nature gems alone is pretty good, and if you have a reason to need Berserk, that could be good. The downside to that is you can't cast any spells, which means you can't. If your thug is the type to self buff, you just can't do that, which is pretty bad and could cause some problems. Maybe prevent it from being useful. Manual of Water Breathing lets you bring an army into the water instead of just yourself. Very handy, of course, if you need to get into the water. Medallion of Vengeance, so you explode on death. This is garbage. Nope, it's garbage. That is actually just not useful at all. It's not. There are even better fucking suicide assassin things. All right. Midget Masher, double damage against smaller opponents. It's kind of funny, but it still only hits one thing, and it does so much damage, you don't really need the double damage anyway. Especially against smaller opponents, for God's sakes. Miraculous Cure-All Elixir. Disease Healer 1, this is pretty handy. Disease healing is something that's hard to access in Dominions for good reason. And it's very valuable for that same reason, to protect your old age mages from getting diseased and dying, especially, or valuable unique units like your mages with good cross paths, your pretender hero units, that kind of thing. Mistletoe Garland, another way to get luck. This is a helmet and it doesn't have any protection value though, so you're probably never going to use this particular method to get luck, although I did once, which was a mistake. Lost a nice expensive Nifljarl, I think, because I did that for some reason. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea at the time, but I was new to the game. Come on, give me a break. Okay, Pills of Water Breathing. Oh, more water, more ways to get into the water. It's not as good as the Manual of Water Breathing, but it doesn't take nature or water magic. It takes air magic, so that's pretty nice. All right. Dear God, we're halfway through. You know what? This video is going to be a two-parter because I'm dying here. Pills of Water Breathing. That's where we left off. All right. This is going to be. I was going to try and do all of these in one part and then start editing my videos more after I finish this series. But I think we'll begin right now because I don't think I can do this in one sitting. Whew. All right. I'll see you all